Hello, everybody on the YouTube. It's the Wingnut, and I don't know what this car is doing. Just slowly turning. Today's topic is motorcycle related. I want to talk to you about something that actually gets brought up a lot, especially not necessarily in everyone's conversation, but in the conversations I've had over the years, especially when I was helping people get into motorcycles, is why I like old metrics or used metrics more than I like, let's say, Harley Davidson's, Indians, and so on and so forth, the American brands. To be perfectly honest, that's a pretty fair question. I am quite biased to the metrics. And that's for two reasons. The first reason being is I cut my teeth on a CB 125 from Honda. And then it was a series of Honda motorcycles or Suzuki motorcycles from there that I rode or rebuilt. And then over the years, I've helped a lot of people fix their motorcycles. And in that time, I gotta slow down because the speed limit dropped. But in that time, we were buying motorcycles for, $200, $300, $700 max. These old metrics, and actually one of them I got an old Enduro for $50 in a hay bale. Square bale, not a round. And usually when you find them like that, if you're pulling them out of barns, the worst was we actually pulled out from underneath a tree, and it had sat outside for like 10 years or 7 years. I can't remember exactly. It was damn near a decade. And what I like them because if they sit, as long as they didn't get water in the crankcase, and even if they get a little bit of water in the crankcase, like moisture, take them apart, drag them out, clean the fuel system, clean the carburetors, maybe rebuild the carburetors if they're carbureted, put some fresh rubber on them, swap out some of your soft hoses, change all your fluids, and they run. All right, and they run good. Case in point, if you guys remember back to Project Broken Wing, that was the one that had sat outside for like forever. It had moss and algae growing between the tank and the tunnel, the frame. So the tank, tunnel, and the frame. And we got that thing back on the road for less than, $500. It would have been a lot less, honestly, had it not been for the fact that I got impatient working on the brakes, and I dorked up a brake caliper. But that's why I like the old metrics. They're not hard to maintain, and they live, and they want to live, and they want to live. Especially with the wet clutch system. Generally, if the clutch is stuck on one of those that's been sitting, you just take the clutch part, scour the steel pads, and put it back together. So they're not hard to do. Now, I've done 2 Harleys in the last 20 years or so, 28 years actually, that I've been riding. 2 Harleys. Both were not mine. Both were late 90s Sportsters. And both of them were utter nightmares. And both these motorcycles were garage kept and fairly well taken care of. But they were just, I don't know what it was. The owners of them paid more than they were worth because they were not in great, I wouldn't say great shape. They weren't in bad shape either. They just sat a lot. These things sat a lot. Like super low mileage, 10,000 miles on 30-year-old bikes. And they were a lot more work. They ended up doing a lot more problems with electrical, a lot more problems with fuel system issues, primary chain issues, primary chain tensioners. So I'm very, very much a metric guy, because my 2 experiences with used Harleys were not great ones. Now, as far as how Harleys and Indians and whatnot ride and drive, and when they're in great shape, man, they are awesome. They are absolutely phenomenal machines. Not knocking them. It's just my preference is metric now. And you guys have seen from some of my review videos, I've ridden Harleys, I've ridden Indians, and they ride great and they're fun, they're awesome. And just the 2 used ones I dealt with were not great. Every time I bought a used metric bike, it's gone pretty smooth on as far as keeping them on the road, getting them on the road. Especially the Magna. The Magna, when I bought it, I mean, $950 and it came in a box. While I was waiting for my tags and titles to come back from Tennessee when we were in Connecticut, I just put it together. I did have some issues with that bike finding parts for it, because it was they only ran that bike with that size motor for 1 year or 2 years. I think 2 years. So it ended up being kind of hard to source some parts, but because I went to the forums and whatnot, I could do it. It just, you know, it's my preference. But I generally like metrics because you can still get a metric motorcycle pretty cheap if you don't mind buying, you know, a 30-40-year-old bike and doing a little wrenching yourself. And they're fun. They're absolutely fun bikes. You know, I cannot stress that enough. But you know, I'm not telling you have to buy metrics. I'm not telling you Harleys are crap. I'm not, nothing like that. That's my preference. And when people talk about getting in their first motorcycle or they want a cheap bike to commute on, I always say, get a used metric. So, yeah. Hey, it's the Wingnut. Like, dislike, subscribe. It's on you. Have a good one.